Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. This show is sponsored by Kits Keep in Touch Systems, a two-time international award-winning marketing suite for sales professionals. REM Real Estate Magazine, Canada's premier monthly magazine for real estate professionals. And OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, Canada's largest provincial real estate association. You can learn more about all of our sponsors by visiting my site, mindshare101.com. And hey, while you're there, be sure to check out the details of our upcoming Mindshare Mastermind, as well as download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare to get more market share. Plus, learn more about our one-to-one coaching and keynote speaking. Today's episode is number 279. She's an industrious broker who consistently achieves top producer agent status in the GTA. And her dedication to her clients and passion for real estate have made her one of the most successful and knowledgeable realtors in the Mississauga marketplace. After attaining a degree in criminology from the University of Toronto and working for the federal government as a border services officer, she learned to appreciate the interpersonal skills necessary to sustain and foster business relationships in a service industry. She sincerely values good people skills and believes a positive attitude is essential to creating a beneficial outcome for her clients, especially when presented with challenging situations that may impact a transaction. In this capacity, and with the focus on providing her existing and future clients with elite service, she decided to build a team devoted to offering a holistic approach to the process of acquiring and selling real estate. Her team is a group of like-minded individuals who are passionate, knowledgeable, and dedicated specialists in their respective fields. They strive to offer their clients leadership, tireless attention to detail, and business acumen motivated by strong ethics and integrity. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare Podcast is real estate broker Cynthia Ostos. Cynthia, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on your show, David.
Likewise, it's a pleasure having you here. It's interesting. We have spoken many times over the years, and I think we both acknowledged today before we got on air that this is the first time we're actually face-to-face with each other, let alone virtual, but still face-to-face.
Yes, true. I know that's how crazy the world is with COVID and social media and everything. You always feel like, have I met them in person? Do I know them in person? It's a strange world we live in.
Well, for as many years as it's been, I would say, and had as many conversations as we've had over those years, it's nice to meet you.
Yes. And you've got such a great radio voice, I must say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate not complimenting the face for radio, because I've heard that one before, and you're like, at first you're like, thank you. Then you're like, wait a second, that's not nice.
Yeah.
No, it's we have a lot of fun with this, and I would take a moment to say thank you to everybody tuned in today. As always, it means a lot to us that you continue to come back for more information. As you know, the podcast itself is very much related to our real estate industry, this sandbox that we all get to have a lot of fun playing in. And look, this is all in an effort to add a ton of value, talk a lot of marketing, talk a lot of sales, talk a lot of strategy. This is where we have a lot of fun every day. I mean, not just the podcast, but like what we actually get to do.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So tell me, how long have you, what's that?
I'm a huge fan of this podcast.
Aww.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. That's been another episode of the Mindshare. Cynthia, tell us, how long have you been selling real estate? I want to give people a little bit of background for those that don't know you. How long have you been in the industry for?
Yes, 14 long years.
Long years, eh?
Okay. Career, yes, 14 years. I've outnumbered my previous career because that was 10, and here I am, 14 years in.
It's funny. We're talking about the Border Patrol, right? When you said previous career.
Yes,
I had no idea about that until I read that. And funny enough, I had an event that I had to go speak at down in Atlanta a couple years ago, and this was off the heels of all the COVID stuff and everything else. And I pulled up to the border. I got there like almost like palms sweating kind of thing, like thinking I was in an episode of Narcos when I had like nothing to worry about. But it was like one of those where you're like, oh my God, are they going to let me in? Am I going to get? There were 3 officers in the one booth.
Oh dear.
all drilling me. And I mean, at the end of it, they said, "Hey, you let them know that you crushed them at the border today."
Yeah, yeah.
Whew.
Totally normal. That's a normal thing, to feel like that. So yeah. We're intimidating in uniform. I still feel like, when I say we, I'm always, my heart is half with my friends at the airport, my old colleagues and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you ever tell them, like, when you pull up, you're like, "Hey, I've been in your shoes before. I know what you're about to say to me."
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they give you respect for that, or do they look down their
Oh,
nose at you?
they do.
Okay.
Yeah, especially at Pearson, because that's where I worked for 10 years. So, and half the time when I travel through there now, I don't know anybody, but I always declare and respectfully obviously go through. And sometimes they let me go when they hear that I worked there for so long. And yeah, they're doing a really important job, right?
For
So
sure. Did you see the latest? I saw it like literally this morning in the news, the big heist, the gold heist, like $90 million or whatever. Why, I don't know. I'm gonna flub that, whatever the facts were, but like some massive heist of gold
I have
stolen
not,
from Pearson. Yeah.
seen it yet.
I,
But
I I looked at it. I'm like, they could make a movie out of this one.
well, and they started filming a show right after I left. Unfortunately, I would have been on there, I'm sure. But yeah, there's just so much excitement that happens at Pearson all the
Oh
time.
my God, I can't even imagine the stories. But let's talk real estate today.
Yes.
I'm curious to know, 14 years ago,
Mhm.
what was the first eye-opening moment that you had when you got into the business between, what you thought it was and what you really quickly learned that it was?
Mhm. I mean, when I got into the business, truthfully, it was sort of like, let me try my hand at real estate. I truthfully didn't really know what to expect. And, I don't know how, I don't know if it's luck or the right place at the right time, but my first 3 deals actually came very quickly, which is not normal. So for anybody watching, obviously, like most realtors, they don't make money until maybe like 6 months in at least. I mean, you would know, David, you
Yep,
probably have so many on the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
absolutely.
So my first 3 deals were sort of my first month in real estate, and I did make around $25,000. That number I always remember, and obviously, very quickly I learned, wow, like the money's really great in real estate, and I found it to be very like challenging, exhilarating, and fun. And I think I just got hooked, really, just early on of like the excitement, the rush that you get right when you do a transaction. So I didn't fully know what I was getting into, and just had success so early on. And I mean, it did take me a few years to fully resign from the government because that was a huge decision, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, like once I resigned, like that was just like I knew very early on that it was my passion. I feel like I found it finally.
I'm going to come back to those deals in just a moment, but I do have a question because I think that, look, we could get into what do you think about the market and what's going on with the market right now. I think there's some realities to what's happening out there. And the same thing I always say to everybody though, you can't control the competition, you can't control the market, but if this is what you do for a living, you can control what you do.
100%.
So what I'm curious about, because we do see, and I know there's a lot of people doing very well right now, right? We will always have this group of people that will continue to do because they've built a strong business, they know what they have to do daily.
Yes.
That being said, it's a lonely business. And when sales are slow, mindsets can get down. I'm wondering, and I know you've got a flourishing team, and we're going to talk about that as well. Um, but how do you stay positive and driven no matter what?
Yeah, I honestly think the way I stayed positive through all the ups and downs,
Yeah.
because like I said, I've been in this 14 years, is that you really create your reality, right? And you are in control. Like, I don't care if the market's down, if it's like, so when I hear agents say, like, oh, it's been such a tough year, like, yes, obviously it can be a tough year, but what are you doing? What is the activity that's within your control? Because we make the market for ourselves. Like, I just think that that's sort of what always drove me is that, every corner where you look, like, there's homes and those are all potential clients. Like, that's the mindset, right? Like, so I just think how can you get down if you know you can change it so quickly? Like you can change your course or your, pipeline, like fill it up. Like I just don't resonate with people when they say like the market's not good or things are slow.
Interesting. So are you somebody who does a lot of reading? I mean, obviously podcasts you mentioned you listen to. Like, do you spend a lot of time trying to keep the mindset in a strong place through self-development, or for you is it more of like, let's go out there and grind, let's go out there and do the things we need to do when things are a little bit, again, when you're feeling just a little bit lower, the energy levels or maybe the mindsets?
Yeah, I would say I never really feel low, and maybe I'm weird. I never feel like, oh, like there's no business. Like I just never get to that place. If anything, my problem is I have too many leads. Do you see what I'm saying? It's an abundance mindset. So that gets me down sometimes because, like, even this morning, like I realized, okay, like we probably need more agents because we still have way too many leads, right? Like, so yeah, I don't let it sort of, I'm always positive, I would say, for the most part. Like I don't think like there's no business. Like I think there's too much business.
You said it though, an abundance mindset.
Yeah,
And
like
I will go the distance right now for anybody tuned in right now. Like, there's a lot of people that will roll their eyes at that, would think that's fluffy. It's yeah, okay, sure. No, it's a tough world out there. And look, I don't want to take away from the fact that it could be a tough world out there, but I also do believe that when your energy is going in the right direction, when your energy is in a positive direction, and you truly deep down believe that,
yes,
good things will come.
100%.
And when you're in a negative space, you will attract more negativity. And again, I can say that confidently through all of the learning that I've done over the years, all of the experimenting, all of the failure, all of the mentors that I've worked with, the clients I get to coach. Having positive energy is so integral to attracting more positivity. And when you really do begin to live in that mindset, as you just said, I don't really get down. I don't really have bad moments. I don't really believe that the market's not good. I believe things are good and there's a lot of opportunity, and hence the so-called problem you have having a lot of opportunity in front of you. It's
Yeah,
a good thing.
it's really all mindset. And I don't want to say I don't ever have a bad day, but I
No,
would
no,
feel
we're human.
like my bad days are more related to like maybe like things aren't going the way I had hoped with like a listing, or like things that are just like transactional more
Mhm.
than anything. But like the mindset of like, oh, I have no business, or like this market sucks, or like I just never, it was never something I've said in 14 years. Like when the market got slow last fall, I was like, this is fun. This is a challenge, right? Like, how are we going to get through this? And yeah, I'm always like, people have to buy and sell homes. Like,
It's true.
everyone needs shelter, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's like even if it's slow and people are on the sidelines, I mean, they can only stay there so long, and we're seeing this right now in our market.
So tell me this then. What's a constant in your business? Something you do day in and day out, no matter what.
Showing up,
Oh, I like that.
right?
Tell me
Like,
more though. Tell tell tell,
yeah, like
tell
I
us
just,
what that means, because
I,
obviously I get that, and I think people
yeah.
understand it from like the simplicity of it. But like,
So, like, I think when you become a realtor, first of all, most agents, they don't really know, like, okay, where do I spend my time? Like, what am I supposed to even do today? Right. And I think, so it's showing up and knowing sort of what to do and where to spend your time. So basically, when I say showing up, it's like I talk to people in real estate. They're like, oh, I've been off for the past few months, or I've been taking it easy. And again, like I'm not trying to say anything against those realtors or people, but it's like for me, it's like, well, this is my full-time job, not only a job, but my business. So, it's like I show up every day. Like I wake up and my mind is on work for the most part. Obviously, I have a family and stuff like that as well. But I mean, first and foremost, it's like what's happening today. I remember before I had my team, like every day it would be like, I need to book an appointment today. Like I'm unemployed unless I have a listing or a buyer that I'm working with, right? So that was the mindset. And just showing up and like being present and putting in the time, right? Like, because some agents is like, when I'm talking to like agents where they want coaching, or I'm talking to someone that wants to join the team, it's like, okay, well, how many hours a day are you working in real estate? It's like, oh, well, I'm working about an hour. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, that's not full time then. Like you said, you're full time, right? So maybe full time means different things to different people, but 1 hour, 2, 3 hours a day working in your business, that's not full time. And sure, you can read those books like 4 Hour Work Week and all that stuff, but it's like, I think to get there, you need to put in the time.
A 4-hour work week does not seem, what's like at all plausible.
It does sound like a dream,
Yeah,
but
it really does. And I just look, I know the book is out there and I know people follow it. I'm not knocking any of that. What I'm suggesting though, and we sort of talked to some of this off air, was how busy things are. I mean, you actually mentioned you've got a 4.5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
correct.
Yeah. In the thick of things was the way you described it. And in the thick of things, bold underlined caps lock is the way I would describe it, right? Like it is a lot.
Yes.
And then running a business and running a team.
Yeah.
There's
And then also a podcast just like you. And, I'm always layering on things because that's what we do. And it's a lot. And, a lot of times I'm like, I don't have time to like meet the friends I want to, or go shopping, or really disconnect on vacation because I have this business that I'm committed to. So
are you a time blocker? Like, what does scheduling look like for you?
you know what? I would say before I had children, the truth is I worked around the clock, literally. So basically, like as much as possible, working till I would wake up and go to sleep. Obviously, there's some, eating in between there and, seeing a movie here and there. But mostly my husband, and he's also a business owner. So we would just like work a lot. And then when I had kids, that was a huge, huge shift for me, where I still thought I could do that. And the reality is you can't when you have small kids. I didn't even take maternity leave. Like I powered through like a crazy lady. So now I'm really seeing the need for like extreme time blocking.
Yeah.
But it is still a challenge to, like I believe in time blocking wholeheartedly, but like, let's say you have a listing and agents are calling you like at all different hours and you need to answer your phone. It's like, can you really time block and be a robot and say, agents, you can only call me between 4 and 6, right? Like, I just think there's the way our business is in real estate, you have to be somewhat flexible and roll with the punches. Like, I think you can time block, but some of it, is a little bit unpredictable.
Look, there's definitely got to be a sense of fluidity that works throughout the day. Our view on the idea of time blocking is to block as much as you can with regards to what needs to get done in a day, and then be able to make shifts based on what needs to happen. I do believe that if we're completely reactive to our day every single day, we will never be able to get into a proactive state and therefore create a podcast or go spend time with the family, go to the movie or go to the vacation or anything else, because we're always reacting to what else is going on. So there's a balance there. And again, through some, structure that at least we've created, we've learned how to not only achieve that for ourselves, but teach others how to achieve that and then watch them flourish within that. So that there's again, that this elusive work-life balance that we all so badly chase, we can actually make that come to reality and still grow a successful business or businesses, and still have the time to go and enjoy life. So there's a balance of it. I'm with you. There's got to be a little bit of that, a little bit of reaction, a little bit of fluidity, a little bit of like, I've got to be there for people. So let's go back now. Off the top, you had mentioned about, you got into the biz and like immediately had some success. Tell us this, where did the first deal come from and what did you do to earn that deal? Or I guess it was those 3 deals that you mentioned.
Yes.
Talk to us about those.
So 2 of those deals were from my sphere, which
Okay.
I'm huge on sphere. So they were people I worked with at the time at the airport.
Okay.
And then the other deal was actually from, I had a tenant in a rental property. So that was sort of my first taste of real estate showings, if you will, showing
Yeah.
tenants, like, this is my townhouse that I have for rent here. So that tenant, when I was selling the property, she decided to leave. She met someone and they actually bought a condo. So that was the third. So sphere,
Yeah.
basically. The
Okay, so I'd
deal.
look at that and say the tenant you had built rapport with.
Yes.
You were obviously a friendly landlord, a helpful landlord, somebody who was accessible. Therefore, she felt comfortable coming to you.
Yes, of
Okay.
course.
I'm actually real curious about the ones from the airport. And the bigger question I have for you is you're working at the airport. They know you as an individual who's working there as a colleague of theirs. All of a sudden, you say you're getting into real estate. They now trusted you enough to say, hey, I will hire you as opposed to somebody else.
Yes.
Did you have any challenge? And if no challenge, what advice might you give to people who say, I've just transitioned out of one particular career into this real estate career? How do I get people thinking I'm a realtor that they can trust versus somebody who they look at and go, hey, I really like you, but you're kind of green. I'm going to wait a year or 2 years before I ever call you for real estate because I don't know that you know what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the nice thing is like people I find, let's say like they have friends or family that get their license. I feel like they do give, like there are people out there that will give those green people opportunities because I
Yeah.
hear it. A lot of times we're prospecting, call someone and they say, "Oh, my son or my son's friend just got their license. We want to help them out, right?" And now I sort of hear that and think like, "Oh, like you want."
You're like, no, you don't. Don't do
Well,
it.
yeah, if the person has a mentor, they know somewhat what they're doing, or someone's helping them, then
Right.
maybe give them that opportunity because everyone needs that opportunity at some point in their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people gave that opportunity to me, right? So I would say at the time, I'm not sure. Maybe they just like thought I was a hard worker. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask those people why they felt that I would do a good job. I mean, I didn't really fully know what I was doing, but I'm very persistent. And if I don't know the answer, I'll look for the answer, sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they knew that about my personality and they just felt like comfortable because they knew, like, at the end of the day, I'm going to get the job done. But yeah, I find a lot of obviously part time agents out there where they dabble in real estate and people do still work with these people, right? So.
No, it's good. You know what? I know we run into those where people wonder, is she he too fresh, whatever. But getting past that and being able to transition into that, I think that again, this is another one of those objections, those barriers that people new into the business might come up with is nobody trusts me yet, or I don't have any past clients yet. We talk about work in our sphere, right? I don't have any clients yet. And like, I'll be the first guy to tell you, I didn't tell you to work your clients. I said, build a sphere. Like you've got your sphere, go and speak to those people. Right now, you mentioned a moment ago that sphere is really it. I was going to ask you, where does most of the business come from? Is it sphere? Because you also said you guys have so many leads coming through. Is it strangers? Is it the people you do know or the people you don't know that drive most of your business?
So, because I've been in real estate so long and I've always believed in having a database, like
Yeah.
I have a friend, Martin, if you're watching, hello. He would always say when we would meet up, he's a realtor as well. He would be like, Cynthia, you're doing like all the textbook things. Like you've got a database, you're doing Christmas cards, you're doing all this stuff. So, early on in my career, I had this very strong belief that the database is crucial
Mm-hmm.
and essential, right? There are so many realtors that have no database, which to me, when I hear that and they're successful, I'm like, how do you do it? Like, you know, how is it possible that you're doing so well in real estate and have no database, like somewhere in one centralized place? So, because I have the database over the years, like you can imagine, I've probably sold or been involved in at least 500 transactions, give or take, at this point. So all the leads that I would meet at like open houses, realtor.ca, like through all the years, I hoarded all that information. So there's a robust database with people that I met like even 10, 15, 10, 14 years ago that we just converted now, let's say. So there's
Yep.
just so many people in the database. And a lot of the business also comes from like past clients, right? But let's say past clients were at about 300 or so, right?
Mhm.
Like somewhere around there. 350 now. I've sort of lost count recently, but yeah, the database is just full of people that either one day or another had come to an open house, or they sent an inquiry, and maybe they were looking to rent something 10 years ago. And guess what? Now when we call them, now they're on their second purchase. Or do you know what I mean? Like there's just
That was like magic. I love what you just said. 10 years ago we met them, and now when we call them, I love that. And for everybody tuned in right now, if you came here today going, you know, I hooked you in by saying how she consistently achieves top producer status. If you came here today going, what is the answer? Now, I don't want to tell you like stop listening to the rest of the show, because I want you to listen to the rest of the episode, because she's got more tricks up her sleeve she's going to share with us. But I'm going to tell you now, she just nailed it. Okay. The fact that you continue to work the database, to me, is music to my ears. Now, let's pause for a moment here on the database. And how would you, what advice would you give to anybody on how to build their database? Okay. So you just said it. We met people at open houses. We talked to other people who inquired, whatever. Great. I love the fact that you hoarded those people. I think it's amazing. If I'm just starting now, or I've been in the biz for a while, but I need to get my stuff in order, what would you tell me about the database? What advice or tips would you suggest to me right now that I can do today to kind of build my database? Where am
very,
I looking? Where am I finding them? What am I doing?
it is so easy that I don't know how people just don't know this, let's say.
Yep.
First of all, where's my cell phone? Your cell phone, dump all the people in your database. I have like 2,500 people in my cell phone. They all go into the database. Who do you know? Now let's make a list of all the people that you know in your sphere, like wherever. As long as they know you by name and you know them by name, they go in the database. And then, of course, like the people you're meeting at open houses and whoever you're speaking to. And I'll tell you, when telemarketers call me, David, and they're asking me for business, I turn right back and ask them for business, because I'm just like, hey, like, I don't know you, but you're asking me for business. So what about you? Do you need to buy or sell? Like, I'm trying to always add people into my
You sound like me when I get door knocked from a realtor at my house. I love being door. Jennifer, my wife, she'll be like, all right, go ahead, Dave. It's on you. She's like, be nice to them or leave them alone. I'm like, no.
Yep,
Good
yep.
for you, though. So we're using our phone.
Mhm.
We're talking to people that we've met just anywhere and everywhere.
Yes.
Anything else you would recommend
I
in
mean,
terms of like,
obviously, Facebook and Instagram, right?
thank
Like
you.
social media.
Yep.
So, like some people, it's like, oh, well, I have 500 people in my Facebook. Great. So take all of them, the ones that you would want to work with.
Yep.
I might add that as well, right? You're not going to add like people that are jerks or that you could never see yourself working with. And you add them all into the database. Once you've got them in there, well, now that's your work, right? Especially a new agent. It's like, okay, I've got now 500 people in here, right? Like just snap your fingers. That's how many you've got after you do all of this. And that's a low number. But now you work it and you make the calls, you do the activities, you do all the other stuff, which I'm sure you'll ask me about.
In terms of, making those calls, when we talk about, working a database consistently, I guess how many calls are you doing? Do you have a number in a day that you yourself are trying to get through, or even that you advise, your team members to be getting through in a day?
Yeah. And again, it depends how busy someone is, but prospecting is always first and foremost in terms of like, you might have 5 signed buyers, but you need to keep the pipeline full, right? So you can't be like, and that's the problem I think a lot of realtors have, is they just get busy with the current clients that they have, but they're not
Yeah.
doing that pipeline. So making sure like at minimum that you're calling for 2 hours a day, like, and that's like a low number, I think. Like when I didn't have kids, I mean, I was just working like nonstop, whether it was like texts, phone calls, like whatever I was doing way more than 2 hours a day. But it's a minimum. Like you have to either be door knocking, like whatever the prospecting is that you like, or the follow up. at least 2 hours a day, you should be able to talk to at least 10 people. And that's like low, let's say.
Okay, so hold on. I want to clarify something there. As we get into this idea of marketing channels, 2 hours a day. I'm curious to know, is that where you, in your world, you suggest that on your warm call list, like the contact list itself? Because you just mentioned door knocking as well and prospecting. And I would suggest, and I believe you would agree, they're one and the same, but they're two different things. Like we've got the warm list, we got the cold list. So I'm going to make phone calls, and I call the people I know in my database. I'm making a warm call. If I decide to call a neighborhood where I might be door knocking as well, I'm doing a cold call. Where can we just a little more specifics maybe on that 2 hours? Does that encompass both of those?
Well, again, I think that's at minimum for someone that has a business. Like I think if you're new in real estate, you're probably doing 2 blocks of those. So 4 hours, right?
Yeah. Okay. So like 2 to the warm, 2 to the cold.
If someone's brand new, I mean, while you have no clients, like you should be calling a ton of like as many people as you need to book an appointment even,
Yeah.
right? So no, I agree. Like, to split it up, you do like the follow-up calls and then the prospecting. But half the time people don't do either of these. So
see, this is where I come back though, when I mentioned about time blocking, just so everybody understands, again, there's got to be, as Cynthia was saying before, there's got to be a sense of fluidity in the biz that you can answer that call from that person when you have a listing. Much the same where I say about the time block, there's got to be spots in the schedule that even if they don't happen the exact time that you schedule them to happen, that you recognize that they need to happen.
Correct.
Right. And I call this sort of the aspect of hunting, right? We're going out there, we're hunting for new business. It might be nice that you got a meal on your plate right now, AKA a listing. Moreover, if you want to have another meal on your plate, you better be out there hunting. And so we need to somehow have some blocks of time in the day that are going to say, okay, this is when I'm going to warm call, be it talk to people on my database. This is when I'm going to cold call, be it either actual cold call or door knock or get on social media, make new conversations in different groups or go out and see people. There's got to be that aspect, that idea of prospecting and that idea of follow-up throughout your days.
For sure, 100%. And I'll just add to that, like for me, again, I don't know if it's that I like put in all the time or all of the work over the years, but it's like I might get to my goal like halfway through the year. And it's like I would have friends that are like, oh, you've done so much business, like you've done so well, like you're just still out there like door knocking or doing whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I'm not going to like take the rest of the year off just because I've done some deals. Like, I don't know, but again, some agents, it really depends. Like some people, they're happy selling 3 homes a year. Some people are happy selling 1. Like, I mean, if that's what makes you happy, but if you want to be successful and you're paying all these fees, like, how expensive it is for us realtors to be licensed, right? Like you need to make it worth it, I think.
So let's talk some marketing channels now specific as we're sort of talking those. What channels are you leveraging to drive that consistent business? I mean, you already mentioned we're doing some calls. We spend a lot of time doing calls, talking to people, but I want to get more specific now and sort of hammer out some of these things. What are you leveraging for sort of more consistency in your business and opportunities?
Yeah. And I think, David, the challenge is when you have, let's say 300 past clients or 500 or 1,000, and you've got all these people in your database, it's like, it comes to a point where you either obviously need to build a team or some sort of automations in terms of how can I stay in front of all these people? Because there's only, let's say, 1 of me or 3 of us, right? So something that I implemented, I don't know, I think I've been with Kits since like 2018 or 2019, somewhere around there. Like I came across your product with Kits and I was like, this sounds genius. Like I said, okay, well, if we're working with a buyer or like we have a buyer lead, we can send them the buyer newsletter, be in their mailbox, and then that's going to help with our conversion, right? You're still offering the buyer one, right? I don't think I have anyone on there. Unfortunately, some of the agents couldn't wrap their head around that. It was anyways.
Yeah.
But I thought it was an amazing tool. And then we also did like the other newsletter and the e-marketing, and we incorporated Kits and even just the e-marketing where it's the marketing blast that goes out saying, within a kilometer, however you set it up, like these are the homes listed in your neighborhood. We put like as many people as we could on there. And so many people we'd get inbound messages like, oh, like, can you tell me more about this home? Or like, so it's the automation of that marketing campaign and just dripping on them, because after a while, like if you have so many people in your database, and it's overwhelming, right? So you have to find some sort of marketing automations leverage that you can use to be in people's mailbox, to stay top of mind, whether it's, like I said, in their email, or, because maybe you can't make all those phone calls to 7,000 people or whatever it is, right? And do all the other stuff.
So you're still, and first of all, thank you. You make my cheeks hurt a little bit here in a positive way when you talk about kits and just that, your support for it, but understanding the support that has brought you to your business. And it's always nice for us to hear about that stuff and to know that it's actually working for people. All that being said, though, when it comes to the idea of newsletters, there's a lot of people that have a stigma around the newsletter, around sending out mail to people's homes. And look, my 2 cents on that, and obviously this is sounding a little bit jaded because we are kits, but we're trying to deal with people's houses. And so we should be sending things to their houses so that they can subconsciously, when they receive that at their home, connect us with their home. And that's part of the sort of the
Yeah,
depth.
and guess what? Now you're in their home.
Well, this is the idea. And this is the part of the depths of building mind share, right?
Yeah. No.
What do you say to people about that, though, who are like have a stigma around mail, have a stigma around like, newsletters don't do anything?
People just need to get over it. Like, try it, see if it works, get some feedback, like call the clients on the newsletter and be like, hey, like, what do you think of the newsletter? Like, are you happy to still continue getting it? Right? Like, I mean, it's just like, move on. Like, you're spending too much time thinking about like minutia, right? Like,
I like that. So tell me about this then, skipping out of the newsletter and the paper stuff and going to the online stuff. What's your take on the importance of social media in this business?
yeah, I really do think, like, with everything the way it is now, unfortunately, if you want to be successful in real estate, and I'm not saying it's not possible to not be successful without social media, but I think like the future, if you will, of realtors in the industry, like, you have to have some online presence, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're on like Twitter, or like, pick the one that you like. You don't have to be everywhere, and that's overwhelming for sure. But having some sort of online presence on one of the channels, or like, it is necessary, I think. Unfortunately, like when I started, it wasn't a thing, right? Like, now there's social media realtors, like I like to call them, where they haven't really sold much, but their feed is full of like them at a house, and like, here I am with a Lamborghini, and like, oh, like, okay, but you haven't really sold anything, so okay.
So what? Yeah, you make me laugh on that because I poke at that all the time. The big pose in front of the big mansion that you didn't list, you didn't sell, you got nothing to do with, or the Lambo that isn't yours. But there's a lot of people that look at that and they're trying to keep up with the Joneses on that. So I like that term, the social media realtor.
Yes.
So what is your favorite platform?
So I'm a fan of Facebook.
Okay.
Obviously, my demographic, Facebook was the first thing that we
Yeah.
had in the social world, and then Instagram. Those are the
Okay.
two that we are on.
Now for you, is it a play on brand awareness, or maybe if I ask that, is this a direct business driver for you?
It's so hard to gauge. It was like something you said earlier when you were talking about your podcast. You don't know who's listening, who's watching, right? So it's like, I mean, sure, there's been inquiries and I mean, sales that have come to the team members over the years, but I would say it's not like our number one focus. Our number one focus is prospecting. So,
Okay.
but there's so many agents where, they're new and they're like, oh, like, I want to like put out content and I'm going to do this tour and like this and that. And it's like, well, have you picked up the phone? Is your database in order? Like, you really shouldn't be spending all this time on your social media when you really don't have business in the pipeline. You have no one signed. Like, is this the best use of your time right now?
And that just made me wonder from when we talk about that with the content strategy, what does your content strategy look like? And maybe moreover, how do you come up with it and even make the time for it?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It's probably the part of my business where needs the most improvement,
Okay.
truthfully, because
Yeah.
I just know that, like, if we're busy, we're doing deals. We just had our best first quarter like ever. I think we did like 14 million in terms of production.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. But it's like, I sort of know like you have to pick and choose your battles. And I just know that, is social media like the most important thing? Obviously, for our clients, we want to market their homes if we've listed their property. So those things are always like front and center on social, right? But all the other stuff is just like fluff, right? Like, is it the end of the world if like we don't post like 5 times a day on our story? Like, for me, it isn't.
Hmm.
But for some agents, maybe that is their whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. So right now, you're suggesting that you could have an even better strategy out there. It's not a major focus, but listen, it's an interesting conversation to have at the moment because as we do look at the landscape of the industry we're in and what people focus on and what they believe is going to drive a ton of new business, a lot of that, there's I guess to what you just said is social media is not the backbone of where you drive business from, which on one hand should be I guess, a reassurance to a lot of people tuned in right now to say, look, and I agree with you completely. You have to be there. Okay. You have to be there in today's landscape. But the fact that it's not the backbone of where you're driving business from could be a telltale to a lot of people of it doesn't need to be the main driver. It just needs to be a piece of,
Yes, exactly.
right? So you could still have your successes even if you're not completely 100% comfortable on it. It also says there's a ton of opportunity because if we know that we're not doing it as well as we could be, we could actually even increase the amount of volume we're doing by taking that channel to its next level.
Yes, and if I had, let's say, a full-time marketer, they would be like in there DMing people and doing all of that. And like, I mean, I know the way that you work it, but when you've got such a big database, you've got clients, you're busy, like you really just have to spend your time where it's most productive, right?
Fair
So
enough. Fair
go
enough.
to battle.
Now here, you earlier on brought up we have so many leads coming through.
Mhm.
Let's talk for a moment about online lead generation. Does it work for you? What's your take on it? Is that where the leads are coming from, or do they come from the old school door knocking, prospecting, cold calling thing? Like, I want to hone in right now on online lead gen and just
Yeah.
have you tried it? Do you do it? Talk to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So I would say I never paid for any leads for the first 9 years in real estate. Like
Okay.
I just had organic open houses. Like I was just out there pounding the pavement, sweat equity as they call it, whether it
Yep.
was like open houses, door knocking, sphere, past clients, all of that. And then when my team got big enough, we had 5 licensed agents. That was in 2019. We ended up using a service for online leads, and we did have a lot of leads coming in because I had a lot of agents. And I just said, you know what, like let's turn up the dial and see how this works out. And it was great, but again, overwhelming because we couldn't keep up even with that many agents. Like, the whole point is you could have like 5,000 leads coming in every week, but if you can't keep up with those leads, like what is the point, right? So we ended up turning off those leads. I think then COVID hit. And actually, now we're going to be turning up the dial again just because we plan to add more agents on the team. And we really want to integrate an IDX into our CRM so that you can set people up on searches easily. So it's something I'm looking into now. But for any agents watching, like don't spend any money on leads unless you've covered all the ones that you have in your database, like currently, or don't have. So put people in there and work those people first because they're all free.
It's a great point you make there. I think when it comes to online leads, there's a lack of understanding around what it takes to convert, a lack of understanding around the cost, around the support mechanisms to make it all work. And I believe a lot of people get into it with this notion that it's going to drive a ton of business, with a lack of understanding of what it takes to actually get, to turn it into business, and the
Yeah.
patience and the follow-up and the time involved.
Yeah. And online leads, we all know it's about 12 to 18 months to turn over someone. Like, sure, maybe you'll, turn someone over quickly if you get lucky and it's like the right place at the right time. But like speed to lead is a real thing with online leads, and obviously the follow-up. And, if you're doing that, you need to understand like it's going to be at least a year to 2 years sometimes before these people transact. So do you have that long to wait? Like, are you right? Like you can't like sort of put all your eggs in one basket.
Totally. So tell me then, what is the most effective marketing that you and your team do on a regular basis?
I mean, I would say kits.
Yeah, thank
No,
you.
honestly, I think it's like I just did a seminar on door knocking and I told everybody, I'm like, if you meet someone, like put them on kits because then it's like set it and forget it. You know what I mean? And I think in this world that we live in, like you need tools like that. So truthfully, that's like the best one that we use.
Cool. No, listen, that's very cool to hear again. It really is. And it's you know, look, I know this is going to sound really jaded when I say it again, but I would say it's not surprising, because I do believe, and I would say this to everybody, and hear me out very clearly, everyone. Yes, we believe in what we provide at Kits, and yes, we know that it is a powerful tool. I will go the distance to say that as long as you are working your database, whether it is with Kits or it's with something else that helps you work your database, that is where I have watched and seen the best of the best, Cynthia right there included in that mix, become top producers, become the people that, go to that next level, that achieve that next level of success. And it takes time. Everything takes time. It's a relationship business. I've said it a million times and I'll say it again. You're not selling a bag of apples.
Yeah.
Right? This is real estate. This is somebody's biggest investment in their entire life. So focus in on that, build a rapport with people. You meet somebody, like you said before, they're going to need some real estate sometime. If they've got a roof over their head at this point, put them in the database. They may want a roof over their head, put them in the database. Patience is a virtue.
100%.
Right. So we've talked about your team a whole bunch, but we actually haven't talked about your team. How long after you got into the business, say 14 years ago, did you actually start the team?
Yeah, so it was actually in 2017 that I started the team. And
so like 3 years after?
No, 7. So I started,
pardon me. Sorry.
I got licensed in 2010. And so,
oh my God, I was thinking 14 years in the biz. I don't know why I did the math. Yeah, totally wrong. Yeah.
So, 2017, I brought on a buyer's agent, and she was amazing. We had a great year together. Obviously, just like, growing a team and sort of being thrown into it just because, again, I was so busy, right? I was like, I need some help. There's no way. I think we did like 60 something deals that year together. And then that was the year I decided that I wasn't going to work with buyers anymore. So I basically since then focused on the listing side of the business.
Got it. So it started with obviously one other person. There was 2 of you.
Yes. And then an admin.
And then an admin. And how many people are on the team now? Is it still just the 3 of you?
No. So there's definitely been team members that have come and gone over the years. Yep. Obviously, COVID, all this craziness, right? But now the team is myself, and I have 3 licensed agents on the team, another one getting licensed next month. So there'll be 4. And obviously always still looking for the right team members to join, right?
Listen, it's got to be the right fit.
100%.
It's got to be the right fit. Now, as you're working with others, this is no longer just you and your individual business.
Correct.
You've decided to take on a leadership role.
Yes.
How much time do you spend in a day leading that team, and what's it truly take? Because there's a lot of people out there that look and go, and again, we'll say the social media realtor, right? They're like, oh, look, I want to do a team too. And, I want to start one. You sort of go, why? They're like, I don't know. I want to start one though. And nobody has, this, not everybody always has the proper rhyme and reasoning, but moreover, there's a lot of people that just don't understand what's actually involved in making it work.
Yeah, having a team, honestly, is way more work than just selling real estate. So I would say, yeah, there's a real evaluation that should happen before anyone starts a team. Like, I would say I was definitely more profitable numbers wise on my own for sure. But then it's a trade off of time and money, right?
Right.
So not everyone should be leading a team. I think over the years, I've obviously done a lot of like growing as a leader, right? Like giving away the buyer side of the business. Like so many agents can't even wrap their heads around that
Yep.
because they're not control freaks, but they're like, oh my God, like my clients need me. Like they can't work with anyone else. And I'm like, that's just a mindset, right? Thing. So yeah, it's a lot of work. And I mean, now the agent's working with me, like we've been together for almost 4 years. So obviously it's a little bit like less work, if you will,
Mhm.
like training and whatnot. But obviously when new agents come on, like they need time, and all of us on the team are always there to help each other. We're like a family. I know it sounds, corny or whatever, overplayed, but it's true. And yes, it's a lot of work to run a team.
Where, like, if you decide you want to bring somebody new on, what do you do? Do you put something out on social media? Do you just talk to people that you know? What's your sort of source for that? Like, what, just any
Uh,
insights into that?
Mostly it's been inbound,
Okay.
because again, it's like, there's just so much going on all the time and wanting to improve our systems that we are selective who we bring on. And I'm not looking to have a team of like 50 people or anything like that. So right now, like we are happy with the culture that we have and selective of who we're letting in, right? So
Yeah, yeah. No, that's important because it's got to be the right fit. People got to be in a good mindset. There's got to be synergy, and like you said before, people will come, they will go, and I would suggest too that that's not a bad thing, right?
yeah.
That's us figuring out what actually fits, and again, does it fit the culture? Is it going to represent the brand the way we want it to represent?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, some people they join a team and they know the expectations, like, you need to produce, right? Like
Hmm.
you can't just I mean, I don't want a team full of people that aren't selling real estate or making money or having the life that they want. So it's like sometimes they just realize like, oh, this is too much work, and then they quit early on, right? They give up, and I mean, I can't really do anything about that. Like if we've all done everything we can to
Yeah,
help them, right, be successful.
yeah, yeah. No, it's no matter what happens, join a team. You still have to go out there and work. You cannot rely on somebody else to do it for you. I mean, I have this conversation with people so often. I think I'm going to switch brokerages. Why? Well, things are a little bit slow and this and that. I'm like,
Has nothing to do with
it had nothing to do with the brokerage right now, right? Or the team that you're on. This has to do with your work ethic.
correct.
Once you can really hone in on that, and you've built what we believe to be a well-oiled machine, which can always be tinkered with, can always be improved. There's never, ever, ever what I believe to be that end game. But once you've built that out to where you are a well-oiled machine, now you can start to look around and go, what is the best fit for me? But if you're not doing the work, it's got nothing to do with anything outside. It's got to do so much with what are you doing every single day when you get up? How are you operating your business?
Yes, 100%.
So how would you, if we were to sum this up and we were to say, because again, we titled today, how she consistently achieves top producer status. How would you sum up what it really takes to consistently achieve top producer status?
I mean, that's such a loaded
I
question.
know it is. I know it, but we got to like summarize it.
Yeah, we covered a lot of it already in
Yeah.
today's show, but I think the main thing is like having real estate front and center 24/7. Like your mind is just like hunting, like you said, right? So that's like, if there's an opportunity to bring up real estate, you do it. You're not a secret agent, right? It's
Yeah.
always like, hey, like this is a potential client. Like that's the mindset you've got to be in all the time in real estate, right? And just getting outside of your comfort zone and looking for business, whether it's a buyer or a seller. And if you don't have either one, well, you need to get out and find it, right? So it's like, don't just sit on your butt and do nothing. Expect the phone is going to ring, because that's not how it works.
Get out there and do the work.
There's no magic pill,
Yeah,
David.
that's it, right? That is it. Ah, that's so disappointing. You mean I can't just like take something? No, I'm joking. So here, again, a young family at home, a successful team, a successful business going on. Lots of good things happening in your world. I love the mindset around. It's not. There's always going to be little things that we got to adjust, but it's never a bad day. Um, the day is over, and the kids have sort of kind of gone to bed. And I know they're still of the age where like that that can mean one thing today and another thing tomorrow. But the day is over. You've done what you had to do today. You know, you get to the end of your day. You finally either sit down on the couch or lay down on bed. How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Yeah, I would say right now I'm feeling like it's hard to say that. I'm an overachiever, I'll be
Mhm.
honest. And
Okay.
so when you just said go to bed and the kids go to sleep and all this stuff, like usually that's when I'm still working my second shift until like midnight. And
Yeah.
then I lay in bed and then I try and just fall asleep and like do it all over again the next day. I mean, I just think like the list is endless of things that I want to accomplish, and I wish there was more time, but that can come back to time blocking. We'll see.
Well, that's another conversation for you and I to have. Because there are ways to make that work, but it's about finding that balance and knowing when is that moment that I can actually check out, like turn off, and be able to do that free and clear with an open mind to understand that in order to not be burnt out, in order to still be content with what's going on and be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor, we've got to know where that balance is.
100%.
There are ways to do that, but I fully do understand. Again, 2.5 and 4.5 year old at home, successful business, burning that midnight oil sometimes is also very much a reality, right? And look, this goes back to the hard work. This goes back to the work ethic that we talk about. You need to have if you want to hit levels of success.
That's the thing. Some people, they check out 7 o'clock, they're having a glass of wine. Nothing wrong with that
Nope.
again. Hanging out on their couch. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm like that GIF, like with the keyboard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like, so
Um, Final words. Give us something, just anything final here that we could share with everybody so they could get out there, build more mind share so they can get more market share just before we sign off today. And
um,
tell us as well, where can people find you?
yeah. Well, as I mentioned, Facebook, Instagram. My podcast is Beyond the Sale. So we have a website, beyondthesale.ca. How can you get more mind share? I mean, I think one big thing in my business is just having an honest, honesty in the transaction and with clients being really transparent. It's sometimes I feel like I'm too transparent, truthfully. But I think that's contributed to me having a long lasting business and people that understand it is not just about the sale for us and this team that I run. It's about having clients that understand the process and make informed decisions, right? So that really is how I think you build a long lasting business.
Well, I like that. It sounds to me like creating a real positive client experience and a strong relationship that people feel comfortable with you and feel comfortable to come back to you as well as refer you.
Exactly.
Amazing. Cynthia, thank you. This has been insightful. Certainly helped us dig into how you've achieved what you've achieved, and I hope that everybody tuned in today was taking notes, listening. I don't think there was anything that was like crazy, mind blowing, like oh my god, like you said, there's no magic pill, right? But it does come back to your work ethic and having the right systems in place. And hey, I mean, hey, we'll throw it in there. Kits has obviously been helpful, so it's a good thing. But no, seriously, Cynthia,
And
thank
yeah,
you very, very.
not ask me to say any of that. Like this is the truth, right? So
No, and that I will. You know what, and that's good to clarify that I was not prepared for that. But happy to hear it. Just not, it's not like we had talked about that and done this today because of that. But sincerely, I thank you for the ongoing confidence in Kits. I also thank you very much for joining me today on the Mindshare podcast.
yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a blast.
Absolutely, we'll have to do it again shortly.
For sure. Thank you.
You are either listening to this one on one of your favorite podcast platforms, or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the details for our upcoming Mindshare Mastermind happening in Toronto in September. So check out the details of that. Of course, download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle so you can build more mindshare and earn more market share. For all inquiries, just get in touch with us and do it today. Don't forget to leave a review of this podcast. We've made it super simple for you. Just go over to www.ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. If you're on an iPhone, it'll take you directly to iTunes. If you're on an Android, it'll take you over to Spotify. Wherever you're tuned in, check it out. We'd love if you leave us a little review and rate the show. Of course, if we haven't yet, let's connect on both Facebook and TikTok at Mindshare101. And let's connect on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to take a quick moment here to say thank you. A big thank you to Kids Keep in Touch Systems, REM Magazine, and OREA, the Ontario Real Estate Association, for sponsoring this episode. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.